My name is Avan Mathur. I work for ElectricFlow. I've been with ElectricFlow for about over 5 years now in a few different roles. I was previously in professional services and technical account management, working with our customers to help implement their DevOps automation on our solutions. I'm now in product management, so I work with our ElectricFlow product, bringing it to our customers. So what I am going to present today is surviving this script apocalypse. I know that sounds a little dire, but really in reality, we do see when we work with many of our customers and folks we're talking to that they are kind of buried under this mountain of scripts, and they want to get out of that. Those scripts are not getting them to the DevOps success that they want to achieve. And so what we want to talk about today is how do you, for one, get out of that hole of scripts that you've kind of buried yourself under, and also some best practices and considerations as you start building a solution that is really going to help you achieve success in DevOps. So to start, some questions. Are you suffering or going towards a script apocalypse? So how many people are devoted to maintaining your scripts? Is it a whole team or slew of people who are working on this, maintaining these changes? Is it just one person who's really the only one who has all of the knowledge, and if they left, what would happen? You know, is there a way that this knowledge is shared across your team? What happens, exactly, it's the question I just asked. What happens if that script owner leaves? Are you going to be lost? Are you going to have knowledge about how your deployments are being done? Are you afraid of making changes to your automation? Is there too much nested calls and complexity in those scripts where you don't really know what's going to happen if you make a change, and you want to keep up with the demands of your business? You want to be able to bring in new technologies and update your processes, but there's that fear and anxiety of, if I introduce a change, what is going to be the ripple effect? What's going to end up happening to my process? Do I even want to try? Do you have visibility into what was executed and the current status? These scripts, where are they being executed? Are the outputs of these scripts being logged? Can you go back in time and see, well, 2 weeks ago, what was deployed to my UAT environment, and where I had this issue, and who deployed it? What were the changes that were made? Do you have that traceability into what was happening? How long does it take to run a deployment? You might have these scripts, you have pieces of automation, but a lot of the time, it's not fully automated. There are going to be these pieces, these different scripts that are either, maybe part of an overall checklist or runbook where people are then manually running them, making sure the results are good before going on and starting the next step. So how long does it even take to run the entire deployment? Is it, something that's going to meet your demands of getting your software out to your customers as quickly as you need to? How do you prepare for an audit? That's going back a little bit into that visibility and also looking back at what has happened in the past. Do you even have that information? How is it being collected? If you have, many deployments happening and many people running them, how do you collect all that information in one place when you need to go back in history and look at what happened? So what is the reality that a lot of people live in? We have spaghetti scripts with our yucky hand coming out of it, where people, you might have started with a small solution and then built on it. Suddenly you're growing and you're adding more capabilities, you're adding more functions that are being called, and it just grows out of hand where you can no longer maintain it. It kind of takes on a life of its own, at which point people are as I said, scared to even make changes or try to understand how you can, start over. There's piecemeal automation that's oftentimes connected by more scripts. You may have one script that is for doing your machine configuration, another script that's doing your app server deployment, maybe another, parent script on top of that is kind of daisy chaining these different calls, and then it's just more and more complexity in trying to understand what is happening. And a lot of the time in that maintenance cost and time is a lot, and it's unknown because it's kind of something that's an overhead that's constant, that your team or a group of people is working on making changes, updates, and you're not really able to keep track of what is that time, what is that cost of maintaining this solution. It might not be scalable. You can run these scripts one at a time. You have people who are doing your deployments, but what happens when your business demands grow, when you find success and you want to start scaling and deploying to more nodes more quickly, more applications? Can you continue to do that? How do you scale? And then we've talked about the auditability and visibility, also reusability, making sure that you're making these processes reusable across your organization and your applications. And then knowledge retention and sharing. This is one that is really important, where who has the knowledge of how this is done. There was a customer that I had worked with they were a small consumer credit company, and I had gone to help them implement their deployments, and I was in the process of doing their app server deployment and asked, okay, what I was going to call the plugin, and asked when you run your deployments now, what are the parameters you pass to Glassfish is what they were using. And the release managers who were in the room with me didn't know. The team had no idea. They were just running these scripts, and they didn't know how anything happened. And so they passed me the laptop, and this is the directory, this is all of the scripts. And so I ended up going through, and it was a big, nested call of multiple scripts. And finally I got to the one that had the AS admin call and found those parameters. And then I was able to just pull those and plug them into the plugin. And that should really be how easy it is. It shouldn't be where you need to spend an hour going through this mass of scripts to find what is being done. You want that traceability. You want the visibility into exactly what's being run. And when the people who are actually running it don't know what's happening, how are you going to get that information to anyone else? So a few other examples. I don't know if you attended yesterday. We had one of our customers, Net Entertainment, present here. Aloisio told us about their situation before they moved to orchestrating their pipelines and orchestrating their deployments, where their team was spending 80% of their time on non-value add activities, like doing bug fixes and patch deployments. And so rather than being able to push out new features and new value to their customers, so much of their time was doing these manual checklists of pushing out their deployments. And they had a 2 to 4 hour maintenance window for upgrades. I recommend you go and look at his whole story where you can see more of the details. But a big thing is that the only way they could scale as they were growing was by adding more people to the team. And that's not really the solution you want, where you're just adding more people who are continuing to do these repetitive tasks that are not really fulfilling anyway. Another example is a business payment solutions company that we've been working with, who could not keep up with the growth of their business. They're very successful, which is great, but the IT ops team needs to also keep up with that and be able to deploy at the speed that the business requires. They have scripts for deployments, but now they need to deploy to 5,000. They need to do 5,000 deployments, and it's currently taking a month for them to get all of those deployments completed, where 4 to 10 people are spending 8 hours a day on this, which is ridiculous, right? We want to automate this. We want to orchestrate this where they can run all of those 5,000 deployments concurrently at once and get them done in a much shorter window of time. Another issue they have is they have these 4 to 10 people running these, and so there's no visibility into across all of the activities where you can see in one place what's happening. That's what management asks for, is what is the status? Where are we? Can they go? What is the dashboard where they can see all of that information? So this kind of repetitive work makes people feel like this. We don't want that. So there has to be They're repetitive checklists, running scripts, high stress deployments, and constant fire drills. That leads to unhappy people. So what we want is a better way. And there's got to be a better way. So where do we want to be? We want to have increased productivity where time is spent developing and innovating instead of spent, chasing down these fire drills or doing these repetitive checklists. You want improved process robustness. So, where you can reliably know that the deployment I ran yesterday, I can repeat that today and know it's going to be the exact same result on my production environment. And scalability. As your business grows, making sure that the automation you have in place can grow with it without having the effect or impact on performance or on your team, on making people unhappy. You want reduced risk, again, having that repeatability of process, being able to roll back if necessary if you have an issue during deployment. And system-level visibility across your processes. So have that visibility of exactly what is deployed in each environment, and then taking it a step higher and seeing across all of your applications what the current status is. So what we want to do is not just automate, but really orchestrate the entire solution. So, in our DevOps journey, we're going from possibly manual siloed processes to this scripted partial automation solution where you have, these scripts that are piecemeal automated. And then finally, what we want is this orchestrated, fully automated solution. Because having scripts does not mean that you're fully automated. What you want is that every action is automated and then driven by your entire pipeline. You want the entire thing to be automated as much as possible, where even your gates between stages are driven by the data that is generated by the previous stage, where your test results are driving your next step. Your tests are fully automated. I think Robert had mentioned that. It's so important. So you want to ask yourself, are you fully automated? And make sure that you're taking that step above and orchestrating the entire process from each stage deployment and all the processes that happen before and after. So to approach the problem, we're not always starting greenfield. We have to climb out of that script hole or out of under the mountain, whatever we want to call it. So some of the ways to get started: take stock of your scripts. For that team that I had worked with, they had no idea what they were running to begin with. So the first step would be to look at what do I have right now and understand what is actually being called. Create that value stream map of your entire process. Get on the whiteboard, see all of the pieces, and then start understanding how you can automate that, how you can orchestrate it in a better, robust solution. So you want to have the right team of people who are architecting your pipeline, and I'll go through some more best practices about what you want to consider when you are architecting that pipeline. It's not just about taking those scripts and putting a layer above it, orchestrating it. That might be a way to get started, where you're starting to carve out those important blocks, wrapping existing scripts and calling them. But really, there's more to it. You want to make sure you're planning for the future. You're thinking about robustness. You're thinking about security and visibility along the way. And then, important to start is establish that central repository for maintenance and also common access to your scripts. So making sure that everyone has access, everyone can see what's being run. This could be an SCM repository. You definitely want them to be versioned so you can see what version was run at any given time. It could be the platform that you're using to orchestrate your processes that actually ends up being the repository that's also versioning your scripts. So let me jump into some of the best practices. that I think are important as you're starting to go from scripts into a more whole solution. So design for reusability and look at a model-driven approach as you're getting started. So when you're designing for reusability and you're looking at that whiteboard of all of your different scripts and processes that are being called, start looking for repeated functions, repeated actions that are that you're running, and look at if you can, create these common reusable modules instead, abstract away the details, parameterize those, so you have less to maintain, and you can make sure that those functions are, more well-written and more robust as well. Also, a model-driven approach is really what we recommend. You can break down your application, your entire process, and the environment to where it's deployed. So you're able to visualize what is my application made up of, what are the different artifacts or components of that application, and separate the application from where it's deployed. So then you can take that same application and process and deploy it to multiple environments with knowing that you're using the exact same app definition, the exact same process, and having that fidelity across all of your environments. So, you want to try to reduce the effort that's required when you're looking for a solution. So look for solutions that solve problems for you. Don't script and maintain what you don't have to. I'm sure everybody could write a nice script that does your rolling deployment or rollback, but why do you want to do that? Why do you want to write that and maintain it? Look for a solution that has a lot of the common capabilities that you're going to see in your deployments or your pipelines, and take advantage of that. So things like blue-green deployments, automated rollbacks, when you hit a deployment error, or creating gates and managing security and access controls in your overall pipeline should be something that you're relying on your solution to do for you. And then, like from my example earlier, rather than writing and maintaining scripts for deploying to Glassfish, choose solutions that provide those integrations for you. This is one less thing you and your team spend writing and maintaining, and it also gives you the flexibility to later swap out tools more easily if you are looking to change your tool chain as you go forward. So part of that is future-proofing. I just mentioned making sure your solution is adaptable to work with different tools and technologies that you may adopt in the future. So maybe right now you have a monolithic application that you're deploying. 6 months down the line, you're thinking of microservices and deploying to, containerizing to Kubernetes or wherever. Think about that as you're designing your pipeline. Future-proof. You use a solution or use the way that you architect your solution where you can swap out tools or think about how you might deploy to those tools in the future. You also want to make your solution future-proof for scale. So you might be starting with deployment of one application in your team, but the intent is for this to grow across your entire organization. In that case, you don't want to design for just your one application. You want to design for your future state where you have 10 or 20 applications being deployed. So you can abstract away the details and parameterize where possible, create pipelines that are reusable across your organization. Visibility is also key. Not only your team needs to know where your app is, but your management wants to know where the entire organization is, where all of those 20 applications are in the process, having those metrics and dashboards available. And then finally, scalability and performance. As you grow, you want to make sure you can deploy. I talked about the 5,000 applications it taking 1 month. You want to make sure you're meeting those demands as well. I had worked with a large FinCERN company last year where they had a 2-hour window to deploy 2,000 applications. And so we started with one application, 1 or 5 applications with our automation. But we also planned in our process for what is the end state going to be, and that included doing, benchmarking and testing to make sure that we can deploy those 5,000 applications in that 2-hour window. Otherwise, what is the point in starting on this journey if you're not going to be able to meet the demands of your business in the future? So another best practice we encourage is self-service across your processes. So this may be requesting resources rather than having your team submit a ticket to get a resource configured in the right way and waiting, 5 days for someone to see that ticket, create the machine, configure it, and give it back. Have that all automated where it's self-service. I actually helped implement a similar solution at one of our customers, where previously it took the dev team, after they submitted a ticket, I think 1 month to get the machine with the configuration and the app deployed so they could run their tests. After we completed writing this automated self-service where it spun up the VM, ran the chef scripts on it, and then deployed the application, it was 15 minutes for the users to get that VM in their hands. So it's huge to empower your users to do their work without having to rely on someone to get these things set up for them. And aside from resources, even your pipelines and automation can be self-service. After you and your team have taken the time to establish what your pipeline is going to look like, make it easy for that to grow across your organization. Make that self-service where new users can come in. And what I have here, a goal is to allow any user to enter the right parameters and get started with their own automated pipeline to deploy their application. Also, you want to measure and improve. You can't improve what you can't measure. So you want to select the right KPIs, determine your baseline, measure your progress. Some of the metrics to consider, I think many of us know, is deployment time, mean time to recovery. As you're moving from scripts to your fully orchestrated solution, looking at manual activities versus automated, what is the balance there? We actually have a great talk tomorrow, measuring DevOps, the key metrics that matter. I think it's at 3:25 tomorrow afternoon. That goes a lot more into a lot of the key metrics to look at in your DevOps pipelines. And then finally, choose the right tool. You want a tool that helps you get to your final goal, making it as easy as possible and helping you with all of these best practices. So you want a tool that has those native capabilities, support those DevOps use cases like rollback and things that I had discussed, promotes that reusability of processes and self-service to get started quickly. It's great if the tool can provide best practice guidance to help you get started, so you don't have to think of everything yourself. You can, or write everything yourself, help you start creating your application models, your pipelines more quickly. You want to make sure definitely that the tool handles the scale that you're going to grow to. If you need to deploy 2,000 applications in 2 hours, your platform needs to support that. Otherwise, you're not in a good place. Capture and present metrics, provide the auditability, the security, the visibility, and the governance. So I think this is mainly what I had to present today. Are there any questions? Yeah.
I'm not sure that I got the full if you do implement a tool, is it the underlying technology under the tool really expensive? And the tool basically providing a
It might, so oftentimes the tool might be calling scripts as part of it, but it's going to hopefully be taking away a lot of the scripting that you have for a lot of the overall, higher level processes like running your deployment to the right servers, or orchestrating each of the pieces and connecting them, putting the right conditions between them, the right gates between your pipelines. So yes, part of it is calling into those scripts, but also taking away a lot of the scripts you have because the tool can provide that functionality.
Just so I understand correctly, the position that you're advocating is purchase something that will keep your full stack DevOps team from really writing the scripts themselves. It'll actually do the work for you, and it's going to be more push buttons. It'll have more reporting functions that will provide better governance.
Yes. I think I'm just about out of time. Are there any other questions? All right, well, thank you.